Hello, my name is Alicia de la O. I'm a senior staff attorney for the American Bar Association Commission on Immigration. On behalf of Immigration Legal Services for Afghan Arrivals, I will go over the family reunification process. This session is intended to provide Afghan nationals with basic information about family reunification. We cannot provide you with legal advice or answer specific questions about you or your family situation. This session is not intended as a replacement for a legal consultation from a reputable immigration attorney. We understand that reunifying with family is at the top of everyone's priority list. We sympathize with what you are going through. Being separated from your family is painful and difficult in every way. The U.S. government is committed to helping U.S. citizens and Afghans in the U.S. reunite with their family members still in Afghanistan. Options are based on one's citizenship, one's immigration status, and how one entered the United States. While a lot of the information we will provide today might be helpful, these paths are not often fast or easy. I will go over the process if you are a U.S. citizen, if you are a lawful permanent resident, if you obtained lawful permanent residency through the Afghan SIV program, if you are a refugee or asylee, if you are a parolee, or if you are an unaccompanied Afghan minor. If you are a U.S. citizen, your spouse, your children who are unmarried and under the age of 21, and your parents may be eligible to immigrate to the United States immediately. U.S. citizens may also consider U.S. citizens may also petition for their siblings and unmarried adult children who may immigrate once a visa is available. You can start the immigration visa application process for your family members by filing a petition, the Form I-130 Petition for Alien Relative, sometimes called a family petition, with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. If USCIS approves the petition, the National Visa Center will contact your family members to apply for their immigrant visas. How fast they can be interviewed will depend on their visa category. The National Visa Center may ask you to complete more steps, like filing a Form I-864 affidavit of support to show your financial ability to sponsor your family. It's important to note that for siblings, know that those who are currently getting their lawful permanent residency through this pathway have already waited 15 years. If you are a lawful permanent resident, your spouse and your unmarried children under the age of 21 and unmarried adult sons and daughters may be eligible to immigrate to the United States. You can start the immigrant visa application process for your family members by filing a petition, the Form I-130 Petition for Alien Relative, sometimes called a family petition, with U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services. If USCIS approves the petition, the National Visa Center will contact your family members to apply for their immigrant visas. Again, how fast they can be interviewed will depend on their visa category. The the National Visa Center may ask you to complete more steps like filing Form I-864 Affidavit of Support to show your financial ability to sponsor your family. You can use these QR codes to access the Form I-130 Petition for Alien Relative on the left and the Form I-864 Affidavit of Support on the right. If you obtained lawful permanent residency through the Afghan SIV program, your spouse and unmarried children under the age of 21 may be eligible to immigrate to the United States through the Afghan SIV program. If you included your spouse or unmarried children under the age of 21 on your original SIV application for Chief of Mission or COM approval, your family members may be processed as SIV followed to join family members. If the case is at the National Visa Center, please contact the National Visa Center and request a case transfer to the nearest U.S. Embassy or consulate that your family members can reach. The U.S. Embassy in Kabul suspended operations on August 31, 2021. You can transfer your immigrant visa case to a U.S. Embassy outside of Afghanistan that processes immigrant visas by submitting your request with NVCSIV at state.gov. If the case has already been transferred to a U.S. Embassy or consulate other than Kabul, please visit usembassy.gov and contact that U.S. Embassy or consulate. If you entered the United States as an SIV holder, and if you married or had a child before you entered the United States, please contact the National Visa Center to notify them that you are a permanent resident so that your spouse or child can apply for an immigrant visa. If you did not enter the United States as an SIV holder but later adjusted to special immigrant status, or if you married or had a child before you adjusted to special immigrant status, your spouse or child may be able to be added to your SIV case and processed as SIV followed to join family members. You will file the Form I-824, Application for Action on an Approved Application or Petition, with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. If USCIS approves the petition, the National Visa Center will contact you and your family members to begin the SIV application process. If you married or your child was born after you became a lawful permanent resident in the United States, your family members are not eligible for the SIV follow to join process. Instead, go back to Section 2 if you are a lawful permanent resident. If you are a refugee or asylee, your spouse and your unmarried children under the age of 21 may be eligible to immigrate to the United States. You start the immigrant visa application process for your family members by filing a follow to join petition, the Form I-730 Refugee/Asylee Relative Petition with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. If you were admitted to the United States as a refugee more than 2 years ago or were granted asylum more than 2 years ago, you will need to request a waiver of the 2-year filing deadline in Part 3 of Form I-730 and explain why you could not file before the 2 years. If USCIS approves the petition, the Department of State or USCIS will contact your family members to continue their application for their follow to join refugee or asylee status. If you are a parolee, your spouse and your unmarried children under the age of 21 may be eligible to come to the United States if you entered the United States as a parolee and you are currently still a parolee, or you were paroled into the United States and subsequently granted temporary protection status. You start the immigrant visa application process for your family members by filing Form DS-4317, Family Reunification Assistance for Afghan Parolees who are in the United States, with the Department of State. You will need to enter information from your employment authorization document or other documents and provide documentation demonstrating your relationship with your family members, such as birth certificates or marriage certificates. This information and the preceding information is available in Dari and Pashto on the United States Department of State website for Afghanistan family reunification at www.state.gov/Afghanistan-family-reunification/. For each of the categories that we have just reviewed, U.S. citizens, lawful permanent residents through the SIV program, refugees and asylees, and parolees, The U.S. government may be able to offer departure assistance for your spouse, your unmarried children under the age of 21, and your parents. The Department of State will contact your family members with departure options after the National Visa Center has notified your family members that their immigrant visa applications are ready for an interview. The U.S. government is conducting interviews of Afghan visa applicants outside of Afghanistan. If your family members require assistance in departing Afghanistan, the U.S. government may assist them in departure. If the U.S. government provides departure assistance, your family members will need to follow their instructions and have a valid passport. U.S. government assistance to depart Afghanistan is not a guarantee of visa issuance. Additionally, the decision to issue or refuse a visa must be made by a consular officer during the visa interview. It is important to note that you should not travel to Afghanistan to accompany your family members. You are not required to be in Afghanistan for the U.S. government to help your family members depart Afghanistan. The U.S. government will not help your family members depart more quickly if you are in Afghanistan. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services has custody and must provide care for each unaccompanied child. The U.S. Department of Health and Human Services defines an unaccompanied child as a child who has no lawful immigration status in the United States, has not attained 18 years of age, and has no parent or legal guardian in the United States or no parent or legal guardian in the United States available to provide care and physical custody. An unaccompanied Afghan minor is an unaccompanied child who was evacuated from Afghanistan since August 2021. All inquiries related to the entry or travel of an unaccompanied Afghan minor's parent, legal guardian, or primary caregivers and their families to the United States for reunification should be referred to the Department of State and Department of Homeland Security. The unaccompanied child care provider works with the unaccompanied Afghan minor and the parent, legal guardian, or primary caregiver while still in home country to establish the identities of all adults in the household eligible for reunification who are unmarried and under 21 years of age. The Office of Refugee Resettlement determines whether a prior bona fide relationship between the child and parent, legal guardian, or primary caregiver exists, including to the satisfaction of the Office of Refugee Resettlement that the primary caregiver is typically entrusted with the child's care and lives or has lived with the child. The Office of Refugee Resettlement obtains the results of background checks conducted by U.S. authorities, including the Department of Homeland Security or other entities. Based on such background checks, the Office of Refugee Resettlement is satisfied that the caregiver has not engaged in conduct which would represent a welfare risk to the child. If steps 1 through 3 are completed to the satisfaction of the Office of Refugee Resettlement, ORR will direct the unaccompanied child care provider to complete a release of the unaccompanied Afghan minor to the arriving parent, legal guardian, or primary caregiver. To effectuate a safe and timely reunification of an unaccompanied Afghan minor in care, the Office of Refugee Resettlement will coordinate closely with the Department of State and the Department of Homeland Security regarding the travel of a parent, legal guardian, or primary caregiver to the United States. Relocations are coordinated by the Department of State, which is responsible for all arrangements related to the selection of who may be relocated, review of documentation, approval of flights, and coordination with relevant agencies and nonprofit organizations. The Department of State has worked with the Office of Refugee Resettlement to gather information on families and primary caregivers left behind, but not all children have been contacted about possible relocation. Now we will go over some common signs of fraud or scams. You may encounter people who falsely say they are lawyers who can help you. The unauthorized practice of law is when someone who is not an attorney or DOJ accredited representative applies the specific facts of your case to the law and provides advice on how you should proceed, or arguments for your case, or completes applications beyond transcribing or interpreting on your behalf. Some signs of scams are someone who claims to be a government employee whose email does not end in .gov. All government employees have an email address that ends in .gov. Another sign of a scam is if you are told you must pay for forms. Forms are available for free on USCIS's website. There may be filing fees, but many fees are waived or eligible for a fee waiver. If you are contacted through WhatsApp or a personal social media account, please be aware that this may be a scam. Anyone claiming to have a special relationship with the Department of Homeland Security or Immigration Court could potentially be the sign of a scam. Also, somebody who guarantees results. If somebody asks you to pay by phone or by email, that could also be the sign of a scam. Lastly, marrying someone with a green card does not immediately give one access to a green card. These marriages are closely investigated and can take years to result in a green card for a spouse. So please be wary of those who offer an immigration pathway that appears faster than the information on USCIS or DHS's websites. Again, this session is intended to provide Afghan nationals with basic information about family reunification. We cannot provide you with legal advice or answer specific questions about you or your family's situation. This session is not intended as a replacement for a legal consultation with a reputable immigration attorney, but we will go over how attorneys and legal service providers can help. U.S. immigration is often complicated, so you may want to consider working with an attorney. An adjudicator will apply the same laws and standards whether one has an attorney or not, but an attorney can ensure that you are making the strongest and best arguments to support your case. Some reasons one might need an attorney, even though there are some services you can do with limited assistance or on your own by filing the USCIS instructions such as employment authorization applications, temporary protected status applications, or referral applications. If you are in doubt about how to proceed or have questions, you should seek guidance or representation from an attorney or DOJ accredited representative. When consulting with an attorney, make sure the attorney has experience or mentorship on immigration law. You can ensure that an attorney is licensed by asking for their bar number. A DOJ accredited representative is an individual who is accredited by the Department of Justice to represent clients before the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service and the immigration courts. Accredited representatives must work at recognized organizations that are also credentialed by the Department of Justice to ensure they provide free and low-cost legal services as well as maintain access to legal resources. To confirm an attorney is in good standing, confirm what state the attorney is licensed in. Ask to see the attorney's license or bar card, and check with the state bar website where the attorney is licensed. To confirm that someone is a DOJ accredited representative, confirm what organization the individual works with. Ask for their EOIR ID number, and check the EOIR website for updated recognition and accreditation roster reports and lists at www.justice.gov/EOIR/recognition accreditation roster reports. Using the link provided, you can see a list of recognized organizations and a list of accredited representatives. Some good ways to find an immigration attorney are by visiting the sites listed on the screen. There is a link to the Immigration Legal Services for Afghan Arrivals. There is a link to the Welcome Legal Alliance. There is a link to the Immigrant Advocates Network that includes a legal directory of attorneys, and a link to the American Immigration Lawyers Association that also has a legal directory. To find a DOJ accredited representative in your area, please visit the last link on this page, DOJ recognized organizations and accredited representatives by city and state. The unauthorized practice of law can be harmful to you as you seek assistance in the United States. Attorneys are bound by ethical standards, but people who practice law without the proper certifications can cause issues. The unauthorized practice of law is when someone who is not an attorney or DOJ accredited representative applies the specific facts of your case to the law and provides advice on how to proceed, arguments for your case, and completes applications beyond transcribing or interpreting on your behalf. The unauthorized practice of law can be harmful because unlike attorneys who are required to be competent on the nuances and issues of immigration practice, non-attorneys are not. Attorneys can be held accountable, where non-attorneys may not be. Non-attorneys, even with the best of intentions, can create issues on applications and may not be aware of all of the potential issues that may arise. Some non-attorneys may even take advantage of the community and commit fraud by accepting money for services. These are some of the best practices to follow when working with an attorney. Make sure to check your attorney's bar number to confirm their legitimacy. Understand what services you and the attorney are agreeing to. What are you contracting for? What is being covered by the contract? What isn't covered by the contract? Will there be any additional costs or fees beyond what's been included in the contract? What are your obligations? And what are the attorney's obligations? Get a copy of the agreement and make sure to keep it for your records. It is your right to have a record. And if you could have a digital copy via email, that would be a good way to keep a record for a longer period of time that might be displaced. Keep receipts for all payments. Consider paying with check or money order to maintain personal records of all payments. Keep originals of all of your documents. You may allow an attorney or DOJ accredited representative to make copies. Maintain copies of all applications filed on your behalf. Do not sign blank forms or forms that you know contain false information. Be as open and honest as possible about your history. The information shared with an attorney or a DOJ accredited representative is confidential and privileged. Ask questions if you don't understand something about your case or the process. Attorneys have ethical responsibilities to communicate with you about your case should you have questions within a reasonable time frame. Keep your attorney updated about any changes in your contact information or personal circumstances. Understand that immigration processes can take time and attorneys may not have any updated information and be responsive when your attorney reaches out. Also, make sure to comply with any request for documentation or information your attorney makes or provide an explanation why you cannot obtain the information. That being said, you may end or terminate the relationship and seek new counsel if you are unhappy with the services you are receiving at any time. If you believe that there was an ethical breach by the attorney, you may make a complaint to the state bar where the attorney is licensed. If you believe that there was an ethical breach or if you have concerns about the conduct of a DOJ recognized organization and or an accredited representative, you may email r-a-info@usdoj.gov. Alternatively, you may mail your complaint to the R&A Coordinator Office of Legal Access Programs, Executive Office for Immigration Review at 5107 Leesburg Pike, Suite 2500, Falls Church, Virginia 22041. Thank you